Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to my RPG News Roundup, this time for November 30th, 2024, where each week I take a look back at the week in tabletop, computer, and console role-playing game news and bring you the highlights. And as always, we will start with computer and console role-playing game news. I made a point not to talk about rumors and goings-on in chatter, but it seems like things are once more coming to a head, and honestly, just to prove that I don't solely criticize Riz of the Coast, there is talk over certain comments from a art director of Avowed, Obsidian's upcoming RPG set in the Pillars of Eternity universe. They need to be addressed, as I said, if only to prove that I don't solely go after Wizards of the Coast. I actually go after Ubisoft and a bunch of others. It's just sometimes you just have to let stuff, stand back and watch the train wreck. However, they are taking some issues, or they're taking some flack because of many comments, some outright discriminatory that they've made regarding their hiring practices and such. We'll have to see whether or not this actually impacts the game's sales. I suspect it will, but we will see. And it's interesting to see a few of other very classic developers commenting on the fact that this may open up Obsidian and its parent company Microsoft to legal action if any potential artists feel that they were passed over in their applications based on the art director's discriminatory comments. We shall see, man. It is neat to see people actually coming out of the woodwork to call this out, because this is behavior that is not acceptable from anyone regarding anybody, and yet it has become acceptable for certain people, for a certain subset of the population, and that's not good. Anyway, moving on to more pleasant news, Baldur's Gate 3 is apparently getting a new patch. Patch 8 will include a dozen new subclasses as well as a number of other tweaks. Honestly, after they declared that there'll be no sequel from Larian at least and no DLC, having these free updates add so much is very nice, and I'm glad to see it. I may have to play it again. Onwards towards the upcoming and release announcements, Dustgrave looks like it's coming to Steam Early Access on December 5th. It will be a tactical turn-based sandbox RPG with an expected release sometime in 2025. Chronos Sword will hit Early Access on December 6th. It'll be eventually also hit PlayStation and Xbox consoles as well as the Switch. It is a fantasy RPG where you play an amnesiac woman who awakens in a city in flames, and she must travel between time periods to uncover what has happened. Voin is coming to Early Access on December 10th. It will be a dark fantasy action RPG where you play an elemental servant created by a mage. War Tales is getting a new DLC, the Skelmar Invasion. It will hit on December 10th and will have you playing, basically going through, liberating various baronies and rebuilding the settlements in a war-scarred land. Shiren the Wanderer, the mystery dungeon of Serpent Coil Island, is set to get a PC release on December 11th. Another entry into the classic roguelike mystery dungeon series. This one will be available in bundles and will include various DLC as well as additional playable characters if you buy those particular bundles. Snowman's Story is set to hit the Switch on December 12th. Originally a mobile title, it has been available on the PC since last year. Darkest Dungeon 2 will be getting a DLC, Inhuman Bondage, releasing sometime in January of next year. It'll release alongside a free update, the Kingdom update. I'm not sure whether this is going to be an RPG or not, but I have to cover it because it is related to one. Rift of the Necrodancer will be the follow-up to Crypt of the Necrodancer, one of my favorite roguelikes. It'll hit on February 5th of next year. It'll target the PC with a Switch version later on. It looks much more rhythmy than RPG, so we will see. Void Dungeon is set to release sometime next year for the PC. It'll be a solo and co-op action RPG with hack-and-slash themes where you create a hero, go into dungeons filled with traps and enemies, and so forth. Neon Blood saw its release. It is a cyberpunk-themed 2.5D adventure with RPG elements, I guess. The then New Arc Line hit Early Access. It is a steampunk tactical RPG set in a world with conflicts between advancing technology and classical magic. Sin Slayer's Reign of the Eighth was released. It is a roguelike game, which I believe is actually a re-release of a prior version with new threats, revised gameplay, various optimizations, and so forth. It'll be interesting to see if it does better this time. I think I covered Sin Slayers at some point, didn't I? Back when I was doing Indie Game Friday? Anyway, Latalis is in early access and is a turn-based classic JRPG style with a very Game Boy feel, and the fact is one of a couple of these Game Boy-inspired titles that dropped, such as Maron's Day, another adventure RPG where you play a bunny trying to save a town festival, also in a very monochrome Game Boy style. Squid's Manslaughter is a mystery dungeon-style JRPG where you play the most pathetic and sad organism in existence, looking for meaning. Insert your self-reference joke here. Dungeon Flowy is an auto-battler, a hack-and-slash style RPG where you assemble a party and descend into a dungeon. Guidus Zero is a real-time action roguelike game where you descend into a sinkhole looking for spirits and treasure chests. Blue Hunter is a sort of deck builder style roguelike where you create your own army, unlock powerful skills, and so forth. Then Claymore of the Lost Kingdom is also a roguelike deck builder style RPG where you build up your hero, increase your attributes, but then use your deck for combat. Vampiri is a horror-based RPG style visual novel where you play a newly risen vampire. Dungeon of Dark is a turn-based logic style puzzle RPG where you choose a hero, head into a dungeon, and face off against enemies in a 3x3 puzzle-based battlefield. Finally, there is Stones of Flesh, a Lovecraftian-based text-based RPG where you play a mortal looking into something bigger than yourself. With that, we'll move on to tabletop role-playing game news, and it looks like the Lord of the Rings role-playing game has been added to the D&D Beyond as the newest iteration, based on the D&D 5th edition rule set, so I guess it fits right in. I'm not particularly surprised, and it's good to see them branching out. Also, it seems that Wizards of the Coast has Archetype Entertainment working on a new tabletop RPG based on the Exodus video game. The Exodus video game, of course, is in development from the video game division of Wizards of the Coast and will be a sci-fi RPG. And although as I said, I don't usually cover rumors and such, but as this week, stuff just kept happening. It appears as though the back and forth between Elon Musk and Wizards of the Coast's treatment of the classic D&D founders and similar old school audiences has escalated a little bit. In a recent tweet, he jokingly inquired, and this is after one of their head designers basically just doubled down. So Elon Musk jokingly inquired, "How much is Hasbro?" It is an echo of prior tweets. I say tweets, it's X. I don't know. I haven't used Twitter or X in many years. Anyway, he inquired how much Hasbro is. It's an echo of prior tweets he made referencing MSNBC and then famously Twitter. The Twitter tweet eventually resulted in him purchasing the company, while the MSNBC one was generally considered more of a joke, since it would be a terrible business decision all in all. As such, you can take the joke about how much is Hasbro with a grain of salt. However, interestingly enough, it would be more reasonable and better business move on his position than when he joked about taking over MSNBC. If he simply wanted to go after tabletop sections, he could probably make an offer to simply buy Wizards of the Coast from Hasbro. With D&D and Magic the Gathering and their various IPs, it would probably be much more reasonable in cost than even his purchase of Twitter, and those IPs are currently more profitable as far as I know, although there is some indication that 2024 is probably not going to meet the 2023 and before standards, nor will 2025. We shall see. That ever-increasing expectation of returns might come and bite them. And there may be certain legal troubles on the horizon. I know there's a few lawsuits going around that are knocking on Hasbro's doorstep overall. And between that, you have a recipe that would make a general acquisition potentially a sound business move, especially for somebody who sees gaming from a gamer's perspective. I know he's a billionaire, but he is a gamer, and people forget this, but he was he was a game developer on the ground floor coding aspect in his youth. So nothing big, but he knows how it is to be in the trenches, at least from a video game perspective, and that carries over to tabletop game development as well. So it may not be as far-fetched as one might guess, especially since Hasbro's stock actually increased on the idea, so there may be some legs to this. Anyway, count that as you will. You may hate it, you may like it, whatever. I, for one, may actually start purchasing Wizards of the Coast products again if he does it. Who knows? Anyway, moving onwards to the actual minor and PDF releases. Nature Domains Unleashed is a collection of new domains and feats for Pathfinder 1st Edition, dealing with a number of new domains for worshippers and defenders of nature. Then, the Silver Veil of Carnola is a Pathfinder 2nd Edition adventure dealing with an old abandoned theater. Kobold Quest from Ashes to Empire is now available in Pathfinder 2nd Edition as well as OSR versions. It has the group playing a group of kobolds looking to become the rulers of the greatest kingdom of kobolds in the world. Then there are 3 more entries into the From the Village Vault series of 5th Edition one-page adventures. There is Horse Quest, In the Succubus's Hellmouth, and A Night in Or's Crest. Kelpsil's Tales has a few offerings for their 5th Edition adventure series. There is Frosty Fairy Tale and Trap-O-Mania. Relentless Fiction has Huge Tantic 2 for the 5th edition, and it offers 6 unique food-based kaiju. Her Glorious Choir from Tassus Publishing is a 5th edition adventure revolving around a ghostly woman who floats above a town. Island Before Time is a 5th edition adventure dealing with an uncharted island where the inhabitants speak of a mighty city at the heart of the island. The Codex of Secrets from Adventure Ripples is a 5th edition campaign designed to take characters from levels 5 to 8 in 4 acts. They also have Bargain with the Devil, a Halloween-themed adventure, which seems a little bit late, but oh well. Atlantis, War of the Trident is a 5th edition adventure with a new character options, enhanced underwater mechanics, and so forth. Mists of Fracture is a 5th edition horror one-shot with a cosmic horror theme. Rise of Vaporia is a diesel punk adventure for 5th edition and looks to kick off the Vaporia trilogy of adventures. Then Gloriana is a collection of player options for 5th edition for a high fantasy Old West world. It includes a new player species, subclasses, spells, and so forth. Goodman Games has a few offerings available in both 5th edition and Dungeon Crawl Classics format. There is Original Adventures Reincarnated number 8, Grimtooth Old School Traps, which is a collection of classic traps started out for 5th edition. I stopped covering these Original Adventures Reincarnated. I thought about doing it again, but we shall have to see. Anyway, they also have the same available in Dungeon Crawl Classics format. Then there is Against the Thieves Guild, which is a 5th edition adventure, and their 5th edition fantasy series, also available in a Dungeon Crawl Classics format. And finally, just because I'm not going to put it out there on its own in the Dungeon Crawl Classics series, there is Trials from the Trapmaster's Tomb, a Dungeon Crawl Classics adventure from Goodman Games. Barnabas, Nightheart's Guide to Surviving the Vampire Plague, is a 5th edition sourcebook with systems for adding vampires and horror to 5th edition, new vampire powers, unique monsters, magic items, and more. Tomb of Intangible Treasures is a 5th edition collection of materials that's focused on adventure awards designed to replace or supplement magic items, including various boons and blessings, charms, pacts, training, and so forth. Oath of the World Serpent is a 5th edition paladin subclass which focuses on the forces of nature. Figgy Puddin' Steals Christmas makes another appearance. This time the holiday-themed adventure is started out for the Shadowdark RPG. Then there's Goblin Waffle Apocalypse, a Shadowdark RPG involving goblin survivors in the wasteland and apparently lots of waffles. The Dark Beneath the Ice is an adventure for Osric and similar first edition OSR systems set in the walls of a dark elven prison outpost far beneath the ice. The Monster Slayer is a custom class for Old School Essentials designed around hunting down various monsters, and then 2 Die 10 Games has 3 classes for Old School Essentials, each based on a different monster race, so they're racial classes. There is Kenku, the Centaur, and the Goblin. Mummy Rot, issue number 2, is an OSR-style zine focused on villains, haunted crypts, ghostly mansions, and so forth. Treasure Map Generator is exactly that, a tool for creating adventures or campaigns around treasure maps. It can be used with any fantasy rule set, although it's generally OSR focused. Likewise, the GM Resource Factions and Guilds is a general OSR compatible supplement about creating various organizations. Then there's the Turkey Monster Invades, a game-mastered holiday-themed adventure for monsters, and similar systems. Covering it a bit late, it came out just before Thanksgiving, but hey, you can maybe use it for other holidays. Dragonburn Professions Collection is a collection of new professions and heroic abilities for the Dragonbane system. Then there's Dragonbane Supplement number 1, and a third-party expansion that includes a new kin, some new professions, an alchemy system, expanded magic, and more. Sun Country for RuneQuest is an adventure from Chaosium dealing with an area where farmers have resisted various nomads and famines for centuries and the region around where they live. I guess it's more of a supplement that details an area. Then there's Ghost of the Golden Horde, a RuneQuest adventure where a necromancer has been disturbed by the rise of draconic magic and commanded his servant to retrieve a tome rich in draconic lore. Aegon once more has a few offerings for the Ars Magica system. There is Combat and Recovery, Medicine and Philosophy, and Divine and Infernal Magic. The Silver Bayonet, Italy, the Shades of Calabria, deals with a undead ravaged southern Italy, and it's basically an entire solo or cooperative campaign for the Silver Bayonet system. Six Gun, 4th edition, is a pure Western-style RPG in the vein of classic spaghetti westerns. Nice to see those. Solstice is a folk horror role-playing game set in rural Scotland in the late 1990s, where you play young adults meaning to become the chosen of the solstice, where they get burned in a giant wicker man. So I guess that's a prize. Solitude of Darkness, The Tentacles of Fate, is a solo RPG focused on Lovecraftian mystery set in the 1920s, but in Europe. Line's End is a Vaesen mystery where a town is ground to a halt after a series of murders has happened at the main worksite. The Two Princes is a case for City of the Mist, which is a murder mystery in a high-class area. Never Mind the Dice Rolls, issue 39, is a zine with various reviews, scenarios, advice, and so forth. Then there is Detroit by Night for Vampire the Masquerade, 5th edition, which is the basics of a scenario set in Detroit. Why would you want to be in Detroit? Who knows? Saints and Sinners is a source book for the Chronicles of Darkness, detailing 13 new virtues and 13 new vices. Superpowered Legends, Secundus the Sun Eater, is a threat for superpowered by mutants and masterminds. Stalwart 85 is a superhero RPG influenced by 1985 comics and is generally rules light. Shadowrun, a Tarnished Star, is a Shadowrun supplement that deals with law enforcement, or how it exists in the Shadowrun world. Battletech Hotspots Hinterlands is a campaign guide for some of the combat zones in the Ilklan era. Starship Battles for Trinity Continuum is a focus on, it basically deals with starship battles for Trinity Continuum. Yeah, that's exactly what it says. Then it looks like Hermit King Studios has a few more entries into the Origin of Species Traveler 2nd edition bestiaries. There's issues 8, 9, and 10. Finally, there's Sargasso Cluster for Mothership RPG. I can speak, I promise you. A one-shot scenario where a derelict vessel in deep space contains an unknown gravity drive ripe for salvage. And with that, we'll move on to crowdfunding campaigns. Remember that contributing to a crowdfunding campaign should be done only at your own risk. Doing so with no guarantee of even receiving a product mentioned here is not an endorsement, but is for informational purposes only. And we'll start with Pangea Dawn, which looks to be an action RPG, a PC game, where you try to survive in a prehistoric land with dinosaurs. Sounds familiar. Then there is A Blessed, an RPG adventure set in an interactive world where you try to gather supplies and prepare your citizens and settlements for incoming threats. Onwards towards tabletop campaigns, The Reeve of Hollow Dreams will be a 5th edition adventure with a festive flair suited for 3rd level. The Pits of Brund will be a 5th edition mega dungeon suited for level 1 to 10 characters, originally produced, I believe, for Shadow Dark and now converted to 5th edition. Hawk Tuldar's Bastions will be a 5th edition adventure, the 2nd volume of the Latora series. The Serpent's Covenant looks to be a campaign setting inspired by Elden Ring for 5th edition. It'll feature a 6-act adventure. The Cursed Village of Eldermire will be a gothic horror RPG for 5th edition, statted for characters of levels 1 to 4. Evil Dead 2, the RPG, will be a 5th edition compatible RPG campaign and setting, a license from and modeled after, I want to say the series, but since it's Evil Dead 2, the RPG, it may just be literally the Evil Dead 2 movie, but we'll see. 100 Unique Locations 2 looks to be a 2nd volume and a 5th edition supplement, this time packed with 100 plus one-page locations, points of interest, and so forth. Monsters of the Month, Ancient Blasphemies, will be a compendium of creatures for 5th edition of a variety of types. On the Dotted Line, Warlock Subclasses for 5th edition will be a collection of 10 unique subclasses compatible with both versions. Book of Natural Magic will be a collection of natural magic items and ingredients for 5th edition. Horrors of the Whispering Woods Collector's Box will be a toolkit and hex crawl as well as associated bestiary compatible with Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG. Sands of Betrayal will be a 1st edition Osrix compatible adventure set in a desert. The Lost Chronicles of Oz will be a role-playing game set in the land of Oz based on the Cairn RPG. 2d6 Legendary Dungeon looks to be another entry into the solo Dungeon Crawler series, which I really need to look into. It looks really nice. This expansion is suited for more experienced adventurers. With Every Fiber looks to be a pocket-sized zine RPG. This one suited for epic role-playing in a compact format. The Obscure Files will be a found footage-inspired horror tabletop RPG zine set in the late 90s for the Obscure series. And lastly, there is Charlie Foxtrot for Savage Worlds, a collection of 6 sci-fi adventures set in the Battlelords universe. And on that note, I am going to wrap things up here. As always, links will be below. This has been the RPG Crawler with my RPG News Roundup for November 30th, 2024. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment, feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. I'm going to try to get more videos up this next week, but I don't know how it's going to do. I got to run my mother to various cardiologists and such. Going to be dealing with that for the next couple of weeks. We shall see. Hopefully, we can get that done, and I can get back to a normal, for me, upgrade or upload series. I'm also going to try to be expanding to other platforms, just uploading some of my old content to certain other platforms, since YouTube is just getting worse year by year. Until next time, take care and goodbye.
And if you are still watching, I would like to take the opportunity to thank my supporters, the top tiers of which are listed on the screen, without whose support I would not have been able to offer the variety of content that I have on this channel throughout the years. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to join them, you can support the channel. There are a variety of options to do so. I have a Patreon, a Subscribe Star, as well as channel memberships enabled, If you are not in a position to contribute, simply leaving a like, a comment, or sharing my videos are all wonderful ways to help the channel grow without spending a dime, and are all greatly appreciated.